Thank you so much. No, this is really an honor for me. You know, it was pretty easy decision for me to make to come here because I really view this as a priority, particularly for all the students in the audience. It's such a privilege and honor. You know, this is a new position, U.S. Chief Data Scientist. It was, as I said earlier, created under the Obama administration. We know data science as a profession is also relatively new. I'm only the third. So as you can imagine, you know, this is relatively new, and I think that as more and more universities create data science programs, you know, the need to ensure diversity of the student body is really important, and I view my role, you know, the person that I am in this position as a symbol that can encourage that. So it was a real priority for me to be here, and an honor. So good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation to this conference. I was delighted to learn about this alliance. I didn't know about it before, so I've been all over your website and learning about it. But you know, as the U.S. Chief Data Scientist, my role is to responsibly unlock the power of data, and the power of data to benefit all those who are depending on our services and all those who are living in America. We've said in the past, all Americans, but of course we know there's more than just Americans living in America, so we're looking and working to benefit everyone who is living in this country and depending on federal programs and services. And President Biden has made it clear that it's our mission to use data to identify the disparities in those programs, in those policies, and then use the levers of government to address them. So I spend a lot of time on a daily basis working on this priority, and it's something that I'm very excited and privileged to work on because it's what has driven my career, you know, since I started in the workforce. And you know, this ambitious whole of government agenda is something that President Biden committed to on day one of his administration when he signed the executive order on advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. In that executive order, he wrote that a first step to promoting equity in government is to gather the data necessary to inform those efforts. So data is critical to all of this, and it's critical to advancing the priorities of the Biden administration, and he's very aware of this. So after signing that executive order, a working group was created, the Equitable Data Working Group. And the purpose of that group was to identify the shortcomings in our data collection infrastructure throughout federal government and to develop a strategy and a set of recommendations to address those shortcomings. And so they released some recommendations last April. And these recommendations started with a definition of equitable data. So let me take a minute to unpack that. Equitable data are data that allow for the rigorous assessment of the extent to which government programs, policies, and actions yield consistently fair, just, and impartial treatment of all individuals. So you hear these terms as well when we're talking about data science, as President Amy was mentioning, and then also when you talk about AI. And equitable data also illuminate opportunities for taking targeted actions that will result in demonstrably improved results for underserved communities. So this is about turning data into action that results in more equitable outcomes. And we're not talking about, you know, collecting additional survey data. We're talking about using the data that already exists within federal government, including the survey data, administrative data, et cetera, and then using it in a way to shed light on where those disparities exist. So this is kind of like the innovation that this Equitable Data Working Group advanced. And another key recommendation is that, you know, as we collect this data, what we do with it matters. So we need to use that, don't just let it sit on the shelf, you know, in a hard drive. We need to use this as a government to slice and dice and look at different characteristics of the people that are tapping into our programs and services, and then analyze that and use those analyses to drive changes in real time. You know, we don't have to wait, you know, after an impact evaluation to understand, you know, 2 or 3 years later that our program didn't hit the mark and fulfill the objective of a particular program. We need to make those course corrections now. And so this is kind of also key to this concept of equitable data that this group led. So I'm going to put that aside now. I know we're going to have Q&A, so I can talk more about the specifics of what I do on a day-to-day basis during the Q&A. I want to take a moment now a little bit to talk about my journey, my personal journey. Because I didn't just wake up one day to decide to become a data scientist. I'm not going to tell you my age, but this term again is recent. And so when I was in school, like a lot of you, data science wasn't a term. So I didn't just wake up one day to become a data scientist, but I define data scientist as someone who takes raw data and transforms it into meaningful insights. So many people do that: statisticians, economists, social scientists, et cetera. So having this kind of creative mindset to take data, use different analytical approaches to get those insights that can drive decisions. And so my journey to this place is not traditional, not like many of you who have been trained in data science. And I think it's a testimony to the different pathways that we can all take to enter into powerful data professions and leadership positions within either government in general, and the federal government in particular. So it was a culmination of many small decisions that have been driven by my various identities. So I want to talk about that a little bit, and also influenced by my relationships and various people that I've encountered throughout my life. So what identities, you might ask? Well, I'm a mother of 4 young women, so I'm very, very committed to advancing gender equity in everything that I do because of that. I'm also an artist, so super psyched about the nexus between art and data science at this conference. Earlier you heard I'm a geographer. I really like maps. I'm also a first-generation Haitian American, so immigration is something that I'm really concerned about. I'm also a twin, so I dig that. I'm an advocate and a data nerd. I'm also a polyglot. I love languages. So we all have multiple intersecting identities. We bring a lot to the table. We're not just one thing, one data scientist, and everything that we bring to the table influences not only our journeys, our decisions, but also the decisions that we make when we're encountering and working on a data science project, or when we're standing in front of a classroom and teaching a group of students. We bring all that to the table, and we have to be aware of that. But there are also other labels I can use to describe myself and my personal experience, and those labels are lone, sole, only, and the first. So I was a sole Black person working in the Louisiana State Legislature as a budget analyst for the most powerful committee, the Appropriations Committee. I was the only African American woman in the LSU Department of Anthropology and Geography, and I was the first to graduate with a PhD in geography. And this wasn't like in the Stone Ages. This was like in 2006. And I was the lone African American working in the new Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Office that was created to run the massive post-Katrina housing rebuilding programs. And I'm the first Black woman to serve as the U.S. Chief Data Scientist. Yes, thank you. Yeah. But as a young person, I had a curiosity about numbers. And I told you earlier, I love maps, I love puzzles. I like to ask questions, and this drove my Haitian parents crazy because you don't really ask questions to the adults and elders. And I also had a strong sense of justice, and this passionate desire to right the wrongs of systemic racism even before I knew what they really were, what that really was. And I noticed these wrongs growing up in the South Side of Chicago. There were economic and social barriers that limited the future of many of my peers, and even resulted in death for some of them. And that experience kind of nurtured my interest in the study of economics at Northwestern University. So I completed my training and then later served as a Teach for America teacher, teaching French. And I realized that what I learned as an undergrad didn't really provide any insights as to why certain neighborhoods, certain families, and certain places were so stuck in poverty. I needed to understand kind of that nexus between economic geography and the power of place. So fast forward a few years, and I was still in South Louisiana working to complete my doctorate in economic geography at night while employed with the state government during the day. And that's when Hurricane Katrina hit in 2005. So I lost electricity as I was living in Baton Rouge, not New Orleans, but lost electricity, ended up hosting a couple of families and some students who were flooded out of their homes in New Orleans, hosted them for several weeks, and I worked in the Emergency Operations Center while I was also nursing a 3-month-old baby. So it was a crazy time, but none of that hard stuff compared to the trauma that so many families went through during this period. And Texas, being a part of Texas, you're well aware of the trauma of natural disasters as well. We see this being repeated over and over again with each disaster, and also compounded by the ongoing trauma of economic and racial inequities. And so as a member of the state government at the time in Louisiana, I was part of the team that was standing up the rebuilding programs for homeowners. So data is what I turned to. It was the tool that I wielded to understand whether or not the program that we were developing, it was called the Road Home, was going to yield equitable results. I used also geospatial analysis, and I ended up seeing that as we were developing and designing the program, we were embedding equity in there. And this was because of redlining. So you may be aware, redlining is a combination of these official and unspoken policies and programs, practices that historically kept Black families in less desirable neighborhoods. And if we were reimbursing homeowners based on the assessed value of their homes, we would be further perpetuating these disparities. So the same home in a predominantly white neighborhood would be valued much higher than another home in a mostly Black neighborhood, while the cost of construction and rebuilding would be the same. So I spoke up as a young professional. I was the only one, the lone African American in that office, and my voice didn't carry any weight. So I couldn't be a part of exacerbating the disparities felt by Black communities, and so I decided to quit my job and went to work outside of government. This was a setting where I couldn't exercise my power, and I made the choice and took the risk to leave so that I could be able to do something about what I was seeing happening. And I was immediately, that risk paid off, because a week later I was recruited by an equity think tank. You may have heard of Policy Link. And I was able to maintain great relationships with people in government and get access to the individual data, continue that equity analysis, and examining the rebuilding grant amounts, the demographic characteristics of neighborhoods, the location of damaged homes, and the findings of the research that I did was taken up by a fair housing nonprofit, and they used that information to sue the state. I also testified on this before Congress, and eventually the terms of that rebuilding program were adjusted, which ended up unlocking more than $2 billion of resources. So this is like one amazing example. Thank you. I mean, but this is something that each and every one of you, professors, community leaders, students, have the power to do on a daily basis. If you ask the right questions, if you're aware, if your eyes are open, and you're able to use data science tools, innovative, creative ways of looking at data, you can achieve similar results, because there's so many examples of where these decisions are being made. And the people who are making these decisions, they're not necessarily bad people. They may be under a lot of pressure. They may be, asked to achieve results, stand up massive programs in a short amount of time. They may be just used to doing things the same way, a certain way. And so with the power of data, you can have a voice in those places, or create a space where you can have a voice. I ended up leaving and then working from the outside, and sometimes that's what's necessary. So I also spoke about being the first or the lone person in a particular place. And many characterize this as a positive thing. It's great. You're the first this, you're the only that. It's something to be proud of. But, at the time, as a young person, as a Black woman, while I worked hard to achieve those titles and I opened doors for people coming behind me, I often ended up feeling isolated and unheard, and sometimes even, weird for some of the perspectives and opinions that I was expressing in these spaces. And as I worked to push these different ideas and ask these questions in places that were not representative or diverse, it would have been great to have mentors or colleagues or peers who I could bounce ideas around. And I'm talking about also not necessarily people who just look like me, but also people who are open and you know, are open to learning and you know, understanding the value of different perspectives. I'm gonna put the spotlight on Drew over here, who's a young white male who works with me. He's amazing, and you know, I think we connect very well because of his perspective and his open mind. And so I think that is really important to making sure this hard work that we're doing a little bit easier. But you know, even in spite of that, in spite of the difficulties, I kept pushing forward, and because I felt deeply that if I didn't ask these questions and pursue their answers, no one would. And that particular opportunity to have an impact would have slipped away. So what would have happened if I didn't push for the Road Home program and keep asking that question? I mean, I just don't want to think about what would have happened. You know, I witnessed many elders waiting for sufficient resources and ended up, you know, dying before they got, you know, enough resources to rebuild their homes so that they can come back home after Hurricane Katrina. So, you know, it's really important to keep pushing, even when you're in situations where you're, you know, second guessing yourself, you're being challenged, and no one wants to listen to what you're saying and what the data is saying, right? But that is the power of public service, right? If you persevere, you can have an outsized impact. And I want to talk about Executive Order 14035, which is an executive order on diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in the federal workforce. There's a phrase, and to paraphrase that phrase, it says, government's greatest accomplishments can only be achieved when diverse perspectives are brought to bear to overcome our greatest challenges. So we need everyone at the table, all perspectives. And in order to work to change the patterns that we're seeing, we need to increase the presence of women in the STEM workforce, underrepresented populations, racial and ethnic people of color, that really remains low in the federal STEM workforce. I think we have about 29% women in the federal STEM workforce and 10% underrepresented racial and ethnic groups. So, you know, this is not enough. And educational institutions and programs and alliances and associations like yours are really critically important to increasing the pool. But we also, as a federal government, need to do a better job of opening up these opportunities, including, you know, doing a better job of explaining how awesome and impactful data science and data analytic jobs can be, and improving job descriptions so that we can better describe the range of work that could be done, the equity work that folks can engage in. And we need to keep that meaningful work flowing. We need to have data folks at the policy table so that they can influence the policy decisions. And we need to adjust how we evaluate and recruit and select the best candidates to hire or to promote. Really looking at folks from a holistic perspective, not only just looking at their experiences and their skills, but then also their identities and their lived experiences. And so just to give you a little insight, when I recruit, I look for two things. And I think this is this coincides with what President Amy was saying. I look for a translation skill. That translation skill is important because data scientists can help translate data for decision makers and data users. And they do this by curating, identifying the right data sets, wrangling them, curating them, analyzing them, and then visualizing them, right? So that it's available to users, so that they can be able to inform their decisions. I'm also looking for data scientists that can translate their personal skills, their personal backgrounds and lived experiences, and use that to kind of understand and have you know, an instinct for the types of questions that they need to be asking, and not just approaching a data science project from a rote perspective, but looking at it from a creative perspective. And I want to talk about this translation ability a little bit, relating a personal story. So my family, I told you, my parents were immigrants from Haiti, first generation American, and so they struggled a little bit, but we weren't on welfare. What we did depend on was food banks, free health clinics, and the like. And so this experience, though, pushed me to ask what was happening when families were who were on the welfare rolls, and they fell off after the implementation of welfare reform in the 1990s. This is a question I asked when I was a budget analyst in the Louisiana State Legislature. And that answering that question and using data, and it took me about a year and a half of pushing on this, but I ended up identifying over $200 million in unobligated funds that could have been used to help these families that were falling off the rolls, but they weren't being used. And so that information, when I presented it to the legislators, they were able to make decisions to create programs to help those families. And another skill that I'm looking for is subject matter expertise. So as a data scientist, you're focused on data, but I'm sure you have a number of myriad interests, and I encourage students to pursue those other interests. So don't just focus on data science. Look at health, look at education, look at agriculture, culture, history, politics, and try to build expertise in other subjects. Because when you combine data skills with subject matter expertise, that's where you really can, really have a superpower, and then continue to gain experience in other domains as well, and combine that with the data skills that you're continuing to improve. So that's really what I look for when I recruit is that translation skill, and then also really being well-rounded in terms of having other types of expertise. So to close, I'm deputizing all of you. Because we can't do this work on equity and equitable data by ourselves all the way up there in the White House. We all need to be champions of data science in our own spaces, and in your studies, and in your daily work, and in your future careers. So as an equitable data champion, always be asking what disparities are being masked, because we aren't looking at the data disaggregated by different aspects, by aspects of race, gender, geography, disability, et cetera. How might we reduce barriers to underrepresented researchers and data practitioners outside of government? Because it's not just government, we have to all work together. Data science is a team sport, as DJ Patel said, the first US chief data scientist. And then how can we make it easier for local journalists to access disaggregated data on their own communities so that they can also raise awareness of disparities? And then how can we use data to approach public service in a way that increases accountability of the government to the people? So with that, thank you again for listening. Thank you for the invitation again, and I look forward to all of the tough questions that you're going to throw my way.
Good morning.
Come on.
Yes, if
I don't bite.
If you want to attend a Taylor Swift concert, you're a student, please come to the front. No, I'm joking. Come to the front, all students in the front. Or if you're a student in the back, just wave your hand. Wave your hand if you're a student. Wave your hand if you're a student.
I'd love to see how many students are in the audience.
All right, so we have a couple of students in the audience. Good morning, my name is Dr. Amy Aboakwarkwame. I'll be facilitating the Q&A session. Thank you, Dr. Dominique. So we have questions on the board, and you can also add some more questions as I speak and go through the questions. One question that you don't see on the board, but I want to start with, which is a question I asked ChatGPT myself this morning. Will AI take away our jobs in data science?
Will AI take away our jobs? Ooh, AI. Well, AI is a big deal. And there's going to be, things happening very soon around AI. I think that there's a lot of hype, and we know President Amy said, or someone said, AI has been around for quite a long time. I think there's an issue of perception of AI being something totally different, but AI can't happen without data, as you know, and without data scientists, because we need to make sure that the data is AI ready. Because garbage in, garbage out. If we don't have good data entering it, going into AI, we're not going to have equitable results. We're going to be continuing to entrench in disparities. And so I'm not going to say, AI is going to take away our jobs as data scientists. I think our jobs as data scientists is even more critically important because of that.
Thank you. I won't tell you what ChatGPT told me, but I'll go to the next question. Next question, thank you. So you talked a lot about...
Now I'm curious.
You curious? Well, see, I said my job was being Anna's mom, so she said that ChatGPT said no, my daughter, I can't, the job is being a mom, so I can't take it away.
Okay.
But next question, how do you prioritize data science education and research in your work? And again, for our students who are maybe studying and working, or maybe new to data science, you said having a subject matter is important, along with kind of building these skills that are translational. How do you kind of prioritize that?
Yeah, so, in my work, part of my work is building the capacity of federal agencies, right? And so we need more AI competency. We need a ton of data literacy and data science competency in the federal government. And so I prioritize that. We have a subcommittee on equitable data. One of our interagency working groups under that group is one called Diversifying and Expanding the Federal Data Science Workforce, and the federal data workforce. And so we are working a lot to create programs to bring people into federal government. We're working to upskill our existing federal employees, and so identify programs or even create our own curriculum to increase their data literacy and data skills, and piloting that in different federal agencies. And so it's something that we're really working hard on.
Thank you. I'll go to the next question. Do you need a master's degree to be a data scientist? And again, you talked a little about your journey and being in geospatial studies. What would be your response to that question?
I would say no.
No?
Oh.
I am a director of a data science program. No.
I mean, more education is good. I have a doctorate, so that's great. But you don't need a master's in data science to be a data scientist or to market yourself as a data scientist. I think what you need is the skill sets, and you can gain those skill sets in undergrad. You can gain them in certification programs. Outside of government, training programs. That's how I got my skills. I was working in an international development agency as a fellow, and I was able to participate in the executive data analytics, data science training program, and that opened the world to me to all the data science tools and data science process. And I just continue to kind of build my skills and through practice. So I don't think a master's in data science is a necessity. I think having the skill sets and being able to prove that you have that is really critically important. But on our side as a federal government, we also need to do a better job of identifying those people who have those skill sets without the masters. So really working with our Office of Personnel Management to make sure that we're not closing doors for people who don't have those masters.
So just for PR, if I have a master's degree in data science, how does that look for the government?
I think it looks good.
Okay, it looks good. Looks good.
It looks good.
My students are right here, right in the program, so
no,
keep at it.
It's not going to hurt you at all.
Okay, it helps. It definitely helps.
Of course.
Okay, so you talked about this a little bit. What inspired you to pursue and promote data science? That question just came up.
Because it's cool.
It's cool.
No, I think it's. I'm very interdisciplinary. I think geography as a domain is an interdisciplinary domain, but I think data science is very interdisciplinary. And they are real, in the spaces that I am interacting in federal government, across federal government, data scientists are like rock stars. They really are. they come in and they solve problems. People have questions and they can bring the answers. And it's just a little bit phenomenal what they're able to do. And I think that when leaders and program officers and program leaders see that, it just raises the reputation more and more. And so if you're able to bring that ethical, responsible lens to it as well, you're able to enable the leaders to make decisions that they are confident in making. And so, I think it's just, data scientists are rock stars, so it's really, really easy to promote.
Definitely have rock star paychecks too, I hear.
Yeah.
So that helps. So to go to your project, I want to go to this question. You mentioned your response to disaster like Hurricane Katrina in your talk. How can we rapidly deploy academic data scientists to help with emergency responses?
That's an excellent question. We have a program called the U.S. Digital Services, and they do very short-term projects where they deploy software engineers, product managers, and data scientists to emergency response situations, in addition to many other types of projects. So I've seen them send folks to the border to help with the situation, the devastating situation of children being separated from their families, and really figuring out a way to track that and identify ways to reconnect the families. And I've seen that being happening in places like Puerto Rico with disasters. So that's one program. But it could be much, we need many more resources targeted to that.
Thank you. Can you say that resource again? It was the
U.S. Digital Services.
U.S. Digital Services. So we're going to take note on that one. If you have questions in the audience too, you raise your hand. We'll bring a mic over to you if you have questions in the audience. If not, I'll continue with what's on the board. How do you balance the potential to identify inequalities and protecting individual privacy when releasing disaggregated data to communities?
Yeah, that's an easy question. This is really, really, really important. And OSTP, the tech team where I sit, we have a whole portfolio on privacy. We are working with data brokers. We're working with, policy. We're working on security. That's a really tough question because, particularly for these very small groups. So, for example, tribal data or data are on, American, Alaskan Native, and American Indian, like very small populations, it's really easy to re-identify people. And I think when you talk about geography as well, it's really easy to re-identify people by just triangulating a few data sets. And so that's critically important. It's something that we're working on, very deeply, and I think that, there's a lot of tools and technologies and approaches that we're experimenting with and identifying to address that. It's a real top priority for the Biden-Harris administration.
Thank you. You just brought up the Biden-Harris administration. Are there any issues or concerns that you guys are kind of anticipating when it comes to data as we enter this election? Throw that question in there.
Data in terms of what?
As we enter this new election season, are there things that the administration is sensitive to when it comes to data?
I think one of the things we really want to do is continue to advance, the census and making sure that we build upon, the great work that was done in 2020, and that we, ensure that there's protections in our, statistical systems. So when you collect statistical data, that should be completely separate from any kind of politics. And so, trying to make sure that separation remains is a critical priority.
Thank you. You have a question? Yes, there.
So, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, so you talked a lot about the use of data for good, for bridging disparities, creating equitable outcomes and all that. What about the other side, which is, say, the misuse or abuse of data? I mean, data can provide a lot of answers, but not necessarily the correct answers. So can you comment on that?
That's right. And so, you may think that, 80% accuracy is great, right? Or non-data professionals will think that, 80% accuracy is great, but we know that, that 20% is where you're really going to be, when we get that wrong, you are going to be really negatively impacting a lot of people. And so the policymakers, we have a whole network of chief data officers in each agency. We also have now the responsible AI officials. And these have been put in place as a result of, different statutes. One of them is the Evidence Act, also through executive orders. And so those individuals are required to, make sure that each agency has a data governance body, responsible AI strategy, data strategy within their agencies so that they can identify kind of those thresholds and identify, the requirements, the need to evaluate equity, of the deployment of AI, for example, or the deployment of various data tools to ensure that we're not on that negative side of data use.
Thank you. If you have any other questions, you can also raise your hand. Next question.
Given the audience here, we represent, obviously, higher ed. I'm just curious about, based on the need for, much greater equity and so on, we're all starting to think, I think, beyond our bounds into lifelong learning, but in the other direction to K-12. And I'm curious as to what you feel we should be doing as academic institutions to promote data science in the K-12 space. Appreciating that, a lot of it's statewide. It's a state initiative and not a federal initiative, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question. Department of Education, I think, has a whole strategy to improve, the way we teach science, math, even computer science skills in K through 12. And I think they are in collaboration with, organizations like Data Science for Everyone. So there are efforts to work on that. Definitely, yeah. It was a great question.
All right, back to the board. All right, next question. As a Black woman operating in a field of low representation and diversity, have you ever dealt with imposter syndrome? If yes, what advice can you share?
Oh, yes. Most definitely, imposter syndrome. I still get a chill when I hear my title, and I've only been chief data scientist for a few months now, but I was deputy chief data scientist for about a year, and so how do I deal with that? I deal with that by just continuing to remind myself that even though I don't have a master's in data science, I have a master's in my life and my experiences, and no one has kind of the combination of experiences, perspectives, training and education that I do. And so what I bring to the table is unique. And the other way that I deal with that is not trying to take on the full responsibility of whatever policy or project or initiative that I'm working on. So bringing great people to my team, like Drew, and others that I'm working with, and making sure that I'm developing a team that is, that's bringing different strengths to the table. So, and believing in them and recognizing that because I have a team and I depend on them and that I can't do everything that everyone on the team can do, that doesn't mean that I'm any less.
Thank you for that disclaimer. I do not have a data science master's degree as well. Just want to put that out there.
Okay.
But as our universities that do have programs, someone asked, should our universities focus more on alternatives to graduate degrees and PhDs, given what you expect of a data scientist?
I think what you're doing in terms of creating programs is amazing, but I definitely think we need to have more pathways.
Okay.
So yes.
Okay. Any other questions on the floor? Yes. Question. Oh, hey, Dr. Sonia.
Hello, my name is LaTanya Brown Robertson with Howard University with Dr.
Yes.
Amy.
HU.
HU, you know.
Okay.
But my question to you is, I'm also an economist, right? And I used to work for the Department of Housing and Urban Development. So I just want to know, how are the economists and the data scientists getting along?
I mean, we're getting along really well. I work extensively with economists in the Office of Management and Budget, the Department of Commerce, so I think, and I'm, also an economist. So, yeah, I think the important thing is as more people get trained as data scientists, so to speak, not, developing a kind of competition or sense of superiority vis-a-vis statisticians, vis-a-vis economists, and the like. I think when I brought together a group of women data leaders to the White House last month, I brought economists and statisticians, including as well as chief data officers, to be a part of that effort. And we need to just understand that all these professions bring data to bear. What I think data science adds to that is this kind of versatility and the ability to take up different tools, Python, R, all the different tools, and bring them together, bring them to bear. So statisticians and economists have been trained on just one tool or one or two specific tools or approaches, and I think it's important to kind of broaden their perspective and be more creative and fluid with how they deal with data. You need to hit it, like boom. That's how there you go.
I'm Ronald Carter. I am a first-year graduate student in the Applied Data Science program at Howard University.
Right.
I wanted to know, as the advancement of AI and different algorithms are, continuing, you can also, train biases in these in these models and these algorithms. Do you think there should be some type of mandatory, ethical training or that data science should go through, being that there isn't one way to, get a formal education?
Yes, I think definitely incorporating responsible, ethical AI and anti-bias AI training into AI training is really important. I think also, a lot of AI is procured. It's purchased by different agencies, or even corporations, and they're black boxes, and so no one really knows what's going in them. So it's the responsibility of the agency to understand what data is going into those AI technologies, and to ensure that they have a program where they're continually assessing the impact of AI deployments for inequities and disparities. Because we know that when you have incomplete data, you have data that's not representative, it doesn't matter how good the algorithm is, it's going to output unequal, it's going to further entrench the inequities. So there's that data, but then there's also the algorithms and the assumptions that are going into those technologies that we also have to address. But it's a major challenge because people really don't have those skills. So it's really important to gain those skills.
Good morning. My name is Tony Thrall. I'm a technical director at the National Security Agency. And we, like you, welcome the development of programs by the people sitting in this room. And we, like you, also welcome the use of other pathways to qualify in data science. We're taking steps at our agency to work across the intelligence community to develop standards for what that knowledge looks like, and also to develop assessments for that knowledge. Would that be something that your office might also participate in?
Yes, most definitely. I would like to connect you to some folks that are working on our interagency working group related to those upskilling efforts. Thank you.
All right. Question? Dr. Evelyn.
Okay, it works.
There you go.
Good morning. My name is Evelyn Campbell. I'm a data science preceptor at the University of Chicago. You spoke a little bit earlier about opening up pathways, various, ways that you can learn the skill set that you need to, be a data scientist, what have you. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit of the expectation that's expected for various different positions and tiers within your office or any other government agency, because out there we have, various like certificate programs. You can, get bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, even doctorate degrees in data science or other subject matters that can be integrated into data science. So could you speak a little bit about the expectation in various different positions in terms of training?
Yeah, so we have a 1560 series, data science series, and I would say that that's very, there is a high level of expectation in terms of like the types of training, and skills that you're expected to exhibit. So when I say there's different pathways, we make it very hard in federal government, unfortunately. And so we have programs like the U.S. Digital Corps, but I would say, even that program, we have a very small number. That's actually Drew's fellowship. We have a very small number of fellowships available and thousands of people who are applying. And so it's going to be those people who have the masters and who have like all of the, computer and data science and AI training that are going to make it to the top. And so that's unfortunate. I feel like, perhaps in state and local government, or even other types of institutions, people who have alternate pathways to getting the data science skills may have a greater opportunity to enter into the workforce, into the data workforce, and then gain that skills, and then they may be able to go forth. But we're working very hard in federal government to address those issues because we know we need to hire more people, and we need to break down those barriers. Yeah.
Hello. Hi, I'm Jaj. I'm the Applied Data Science Librarian at University of Pennsylvania Libraries. I'm curious about your thoughts on spaces like the libraries where data literacy has been happening for a while now in a different way, not necessarily called AI literacy, but the role of these alternative academia institutions within the field of academia and higher education, the role of libraries, how you perceive that in this space.
I'm not sure if I really have an opinion because I'm not really sure. I'd love to talk more with you about the role that libraries play in your experience. I do think that universities have the opportunity to work with local educational institutions to kind of broaden the availability of data skills training and data literacy training. And I think it's really important to, as someone mentioned earlier, to work with K through 12 institutions to kind of build the data literacy as well. Libraries potentially could play a role in that. Yeah. Oh, I was supposed to finish at 9:30. Oh, actually, I started earlier.
We started too early.
We started too early. That's okay. Let's keep it coming.
Okay. As you go to the back, you want me to take the question on the board? Question in the back.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, ask on the board. So kind of continue with that training question. The question is, how do you see the relationship between data science and AI playing out in the future with regards to governmental offices, positions, foci, and funding? So do you see how things are going with AI? Will positions be created in the government that require knowledge-based training?
Yeah. No, AI, as I said before, is, we all know it's the hot topic. And, recently AI competencies guidance was put out to all federal agencies about the types of competencies that they should be looking at in terms of when they're hiring for AI. But also data scientists, overlap with that. And so there's a surge for hiring both. And so there's like, to me, a critical relationship between the two.
And just follow up on the last question. Are you saying that having a degree in data science does, let's say, score higher within the governmental resume search versus not having, or?
Yes,
It does.
because of the HR
black
algorithm.
box. The black box has been exposed.
Because of the algorithm.
Okay.
Yes, the algorithm, which knocks out a lot of, unfortunately, good candidates.
Okay, thank you. Question?
I came to the mic. Is that okay? Hi, I'm Ray Levy from the Data Science Academy at NC State University, and +1 on the libraries. We have some amazing librarians here and data librarians who could talk to you about all the work they do in academic institutions to help people access and then analyze data. The question I had was about accessibility. So, you know, we have a board member who's an accessibility expert who's blind. So we often talk about data visualization, and we're trying to think more about data communication.
Wow.
I spent the whole morning trying to get PowerPoint to show the captions for a video that I already have prepared, but just even to get my version of PowerPoint to do the thing that I'm prepared to do. And so, you know, how do we build expectations through policy for companies who are creating these products to make it standard, not an add-on or an hour extra, or trying to, do I have the right version to make sure that I can bring up the accessibility ribbon?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for that question. This is a top priority for our tech team as well. We have a nationwide expert on our team, Judy Brewer, you know, who is working very closely. She helped with the all the work around the ADA that came through recently, and she's working, you know, to advance accessibility in everything that we do. So it's a top priority. There will be policies that are going to be put forth, and that are going to be, you know, directed towards federal government, but also external to government as well. So that's a really critical issue, is accessibility, not only just of the tools that we're putting out there, but then also of, you know, ensuring that we're accessible in terms of how we recruit into government, and breaking down those barriers that would prevent folks who have disabilities from entering into those professions.
Hi, I came to the mic, actually to the Dr. Amy.
Okay.
So you're just incredible and so inspirational, and we're so lucky to have you there, and we're so lucky to have you here. I'm Florence Hudson. I run the Northeast Big Data Innovation Hub, funded by NSF, NIH, DOT, blah, blah, at Columbia University. I'm very fortunate for the grants.
That's my alma mater.
Woohoo! So many people say that, I just have to tell you. But we have a program we started under our NSF Hub called the National Student Data Corps, and actually Dr. Amy at Howard University has a chapter. We have like 20 chapters across the US. We have 5,124 members of this free, open, online data science education program. We have 9 chapters in India, 1 in Bangladesh. We have 2 high school chapters, and this was built to provide open data science awareness and tools and education and community of support for students or learners of any age who don't have access to data science information.
Okay.
We're working with DOT, Department of Transportation and Federal Highway Authority, to build a transportation data science community to teach their current transportation engineers how to use data science, and teach data scientists how to deal with transportation problems, including reducing pedestrian fatalities, like real data for good stuff.
Wow, yeah.
So I would love to talk with you about this, because we kind of just tucked this under our hub. It wasn't even written into the project. When I took the job 3 years ago, I said, we have to bring data science to people who can't get to it, you know? But maybe there's something we can do with this together and make it broader, because we call them learners, we don't call them students. Because if you're 55 and you're trying to learn data science, you don't maybe call yourself a student, but it would be great if you could learn these skills. So it's very inclusive, and I'd love to chat with you about it.
Absolutely. Let's chat.
Okay, I'm Florence Hudson. I'll reach out to you, or, you know, one of my friends is Laura Campbell. She's an OSTP. I don't know if you know Laura. She helped us create the Proto Open Knowledge Network. So anyway, love to chat. Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Amy.
All right.
Thank you.
Dr. Duval-Diop, I really appreciate that you shared something about your life. That always makes learning from others way more meaningful to me. So it leads me to a question, though. As someone who will be in a very influential office and thinking of your 4 daughters, is there something that you say to yourself when when I've completed my term in this office as Chief Data Scientist of the United States, I hope the one thing that I have moved forward the most related to data computing AI is this. And daughters, for those of you interested in this field, this is where I think you need to focus.
Mm-hmm. Wow, yeah, thank you so much for that question. Honestly, I really feel like the policies are there, the approaches are there, but we need the people. And so for me, like the focus on the people is really important. It's why it was a priority for me to come here to this event and to others similar events. So really, you know, being able to have expanded the federal data workforce, being able to have provided opportunities like Florence's to make data science training available to existing federal employees so that they can become learners and improve their data skills, and then ensuring that it's accessible to, you know, and it's inclusive. I really feel like that's what I would have, that's what I want to leave behind. But then also, the work is really important to me. And so building this culture of how you ask questions and how you answer them, and raising the awareness of federal agencies that when they are trying to work to advance their equity action plans, for example, and that's something new that was also enabled by the Day One executive order. Each agency has an equity action plan that they have to implement, and they have to identify equity priorities. And so leaving behind this culture of using data to inform and to assess continually their progress towards achieving their equity strategies is also really important. And so for my girls, who none of whom think data is cool, unfortunately, but a lot of them are artists, and so I want them to understand that they should keep an open mind and not close the door to learning anything. And so hopefully that they are able to feel like that they can learn about data. Because I think a lot of people think data is not accessible to them. It's too hard. They're not, you know, smart enough, or you know, it's just something it's out of their reach. You know, and so I would, you know, want them to understand that, you know, data literacy, data, you know, approaches are in their reach, and in everyone's reach.
All right, I'll kind of create one more question to close out. Second to last question. I'm sorry. Could you let us know, what do you think the future of data science looks like in 10 years, one? And then two, can you give us some opportunities your office has to our students to get just against data science?
Future of data science, wow.
10 years.
In 10 years.
Yeah. 2033.
It's very tied with AI, in my opinion. I think that, you know, data science is going to move towards, you know, something that's ubiquitous, that, you know, more and more, you know, people are doing. So it's not going to be seen as a novelty anymore. It's going to be day-to-day how we do things. That's where I see the future of data science moving. And what was the other?
Opportunities.
Opportunities. So I mentioned a couple programs: U.S. Digital Services, U.S. That's for more higher level folks. U.S. Digital Core. If you're right out of undergrad or master's, you should look at that program. Let's see, what are some other programs? Coding It Forward internships. There are White House White House internships as well, or federal agency internships, and there's Tech Congress if you want to look at working in bringing data science to Congress. I think those are a few opportunities.
All right, last question. Thank you so much, Dominique. Okay. I just wanted to give you the opportunity. I know we started early, so we're going to try to let you get a breather now. But if there's any parting thoughts for the students in the room that you want to say before we wrap.
No, I mean, you guys are in an amazing profession, and you know, just know that the sky's the limit. You can do whatever you can, but I think that really bringing who you are to bear when you're entering into, interviews for jobs. When you're looking for jobs, don't close yourself off to any opportunity, because you can, be go for a position that, may not look like everything that you thought it would be, but it's what you do when you get there that's really important. When you enter into a position, don't feel like it is what it was written. You can go there and then make it into something that is something that you're really proud to be a part of, and you can help kind of refashion and reimagine whatever that position is when you're looking for a job. So just be open-minded, be creative, and don't close yourself off.
Great. Thanks so much for everything. Let's give her a round of applause. Great advice. Thank you.